So a while back I did a video just showing how to change out filters and how the flow of the air went, really basic kind of stuff. But things that a lot of people don't know. I didn't know that I had to change a filter or any of that stuff earlier on. I actually had a unit in one of the properties that I had upstairs ice up, the coil iced up, and then it started leaking because the ice started draining down through the downstairs ceiling. That's how I learned how important it is to change filters. So effectively what happened was the filter got so clogged that not enough air was going over the coils. The coil was cold, right? You have to have air flowing over the coil, which is basically just think of it as tubes. Okay, I'm doing this because they kind of go back and forth like that. There are tubes that you have to have air run over because the coil's really cold and the air takes that cool away. If that air doesn't help dissipate that, then that coil can get too cold, ice up, and then you have water in your ceiling. So that's how I learned the importance of changing filters. Fast forward a bit, I was working in a school system and it had hundreds of filters to change. And it wasn't my primary job per se, but I was in charge of it, let's put it that way. Built brand new buildings, learned about how the installers of some systems don't think about the maintenance of said systems as much. And again, I don't want to be stereotypical here and say that, but let's just say that was my experience. And we had to change filters in places that you couldn't get a filter in because there were no provisions for filters. And we had things like a wall in the way of being able to put filters in. So maybe there were provisions, but the door or the opening to put the filter in was this far away from a wall. So you gotta get a little creative with how to do that kind of stuff. But you also had to do some research on, how often they get changed, what different ratings are. At least I did. I wanted to know what we were doing. I wanted to know how that all worked. I wanted to make sure we didn't have major issues, and just all kinds of stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is I've had quite a bit of experience with the maintenance side of this. Not the installing side, but the maintenance side. And I have a good friend that runs an HVAC company, and I remember being surprised at how little they thought about the filters after. Not saying that they didn't know about them or things like that, but they would put a new system in and wouldn't be like, hey, remember to change your filter, and this is the type of filter you have. Again, not stereotyping or any of that stuff, but I remember being like, who is telling people about this? It's kind of a big deal. Like I had water coming into ruining my ceiling and stuff because it's kind of a big deal. Not only is it a big deal for the water, like I say that, but the systems won't last as long. So you have that money. You're not going to get the heat that you want to get. A lot of times what you'll find out your filter's plugged because you're not getting the airflow. Well, let's just say it's like, wow, it's cold in here. Why is it so cold? You put your hand by a vent and you don't feel a lot of air coming out when it's running. Filter is the first place to look. So very simple, but has an impact on a lot of things. All right. Just want to give you a little bit more information. So I did that last video and I figured I did the filter video. All good. But then I got some filters from a local store and I'm at checkout and the lady says, well, yeah, I gotta remember to change that. I didn't know that I had to change filters. It was about a year before we changed filters and the filter plugged all up and was gross and didn't have, I didn't know. And then she said, is that a filter that lasts longer so you don't have to change it as much? And I responded to her, but I didn't like go into detail because I was walking out the door. But I went, I need to follow up, do a different video that gets into more specifics about the filters. So when you're going to the store to buy them, you have an understanding of what's going on. And just kind of explain how this works. All right. So I didn't want to just show you a few different filters. What I wanted to do was do a real world test. So what I did, I have my HVAC system set up to, not the system, I'm sorry. The thermostat has reminders on it. Every 20 days we change filters, okay? At home. Now that's going to vary. Well, that's one of the first things. Based on what you have in the house. Who you have in the house, what you have in the house. If you have pets, filters, you're going to have to change them more. So when it says 30 days, let's see. This one does 30-day filter. That doesn't mean it's going to last you 30 days. It doesn't mean it's not going to last you 30 days. They just kind of have to put it on there. Okay? So it's basically once a month is the concept. But if you have a bunch of debris, if you don't have carpet, if you have hardwood floors, the gas furnace compared to all kinds of stuff. The point is this: when you change your filters, if they're pretty bad, change them more often. If you see that it's hard to go through them, right? So don't go by what it says. Oh, 30 days. Might be 30. It also might be 45, 60, depending. I want to dig in a little deeper with some other things because I learned a bunch of stuff about filters, and I guess it's one of those things that I kind of took for granted, but really I didn't know. I learned a lot of things the hard way. Hopefully I could save you some time, educate you on a couple things in real world terms, not getting all fancy, but I will go through a couple terms here. There are things called Merv ratings, M-E-R-V. What does that mean? I don't remember what it stands for, to be honest with you. I could have looked it up and sounded all smart and stuff, but Basically, it's just the Merv rating. The higher the number is, the more it filters. The lower the number is, it filters less. Okay, good. Now, to show this, what I wanted to do was do a real world test. So I ran a filter for 30 days, 25 days actually. This is a Merv 8. You can see it on the side there. It says Merv 8, it's checked. Okay. This one is Merv 2. Okay. You can see by the different filters, they're constructed differently. One has this pleated, like accordion looking method to it with wire mesh in the back to help it from getting sucked in, not getting sucked in. This one just, almost see-through, and it's got this weaving of fiber stuff. It kind of looks like fiberglass. Okay. So you probably already figured out, you can see me through it. Probably partly because of the shirt I'm wearing. Anyway, you can see me through it. Okay? That's a Merv 2. This one, no, can't see me through it. The same filter, brand new, right? Look at the difference. So that one's pretty much full. You can sort of kind of see through it in a couple spots, but it's time to change it. That's what it looks like. I'll look at these two side by side. Same amount of days. See-through, not see-through. So what's the deal? This thing filters more. Doesn't allow as many particles through. That's the Merv rating, okay? So if you have dogs and cats, or just want a cleaner home, you use a higher Merv rating. Now we're going to talk about that impact on other things, but that's what you can do with this. So filters more, less stuff floating in the air in theory because it gets caught in your filtration system. So some of the stuff that would normally just go through the coil and out through the vents. Merv 2, it's kind of like just catch the big stuff. I just care about the big stuff, really. Okay? Same amount of days. Can we keep this one in the furnace longer? Yes, because there's lots of places that stuff can still get through and this can still filter. Does that mean that this is a 60-day filter and not a 30? No. No. It filters less. And because it filters less, it will last longer, but it allows more through. So you have to weigh that out. This is one of those like minimal protection kind of deals. You know, it's the cheapest filter you can get. Merv 2, lower Merv, cheaper. Filters less costly to make, cheaper. It's just getting the major stuff. Now you can see the stuff that this picks up though still. Now if you didn't run a filter at all, because you're like, oh, let's just not run a filter at all. That'll fix everything. Here's what happens. All the stuff that's on here gets on your coils. As it gets on your coils become less efficient. Also, unit has to work harder. But if it's less efficient, that means it's not going to heat the air as much, which means you're going to be colder. Simplest terms. At some point, or hotter at some point, because the air conditioning is not going to flow as much through the coil because the coil is going to have stuff caked on it. You know, and again, it's kind of like just think of tubes like wrapped like this. Not a whole lot of space to get through there, so what's going to happen once more junk gets on? You're going to have that issue that I had, which is it's going to ice up. Now, I had that issue because I didn't change the filter, and it blocked any air from going over it. If all that junk gets on the coil, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to prevent the air from moving in between it because it's going to get caked on, and close the gaps that it could have the air flow through. It's also basically insulating what's going on in the coil with the air, from the air I should say, coming across. So it's going to be colder air, but it's also going to not allow the coil to breathe. We'll say it that way. So not good. Don't run without a filter. Okay? Maybe for a day, a couple days. If your filter's completely clogged and you can't get one, okay. But just know long term, no bueno. Okay. No idea why I said it that way, but. So, this filter's ready for change. The Merv 2 is not. I could probably get another 15, 20 days out of the Merv 2. Why? Yeah, you were paying attention. You got it. Because it doesn't filter as much. So, more stuff gets through. So, it lasts longer. Okay. This filter is actually a Merv 10. Okay? And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Merv 13 or something along those lines is used in healthcare, right? Because they have to filter everything out, you know, in like operating rooms and things like that. So that's the other piece of this. There's antimicrobial, antibacterial-ish ones of these that the hospitals use to filter out as much as they possibly can. They have to change them more. They have to make sure they're changed because if this gets clogged, just like any other time, if this gets clogged, what happens? The unit is going to try to find air wherever it can because it's still pulling air. And if it can't pull it through the filter, it's going to pull it around the filter and effectively not filter the air at all, maybe even cave in some of your ducts. Or it's going to just pull air from anywhere that it can, which is usually around where the air handler is, maybe from this room right here. Again, not getting filtered at that point. So, clogged filter bad, no filter bad. Okay. So you really have to just weigh it out. If you're looking to protect the unit, but still have good flow and not have to change the filter as much, lower Merv rating. It's also more cost effective. If you want to keep down the dust or the stuff in the air, if you have allergies, things like that, putting a higher Merv rating filter could actually help you there. and do a little bit of research to get more information, but effectively that's the case. Now, I want to say this filter was like $4. I don't remember exactly. I think it was $4. This one was like 10. So if you get the higher level, maybe it wasn't 10, but the point is more. So if you get the higher ones, over the course of a year, if you change it every 30 days, let's just use 30, that's 12 changes. Something that costs $10, that's $120 for a year. You might be going, wow, that's crazy. Well, it is, unless you have something happen to your coil, or you have more allergies and you're taking medication. I keep going back to allergies, but if you don't like the dust floating around in the air, if you want cleaner air in your house, maybe that's worth it for you. Maybe you just throw these in, and instead of $120 a year, we'll say, this is going to cost you $48. Not for me to decide. You figure out what works best for you, but now at least you know a little bit more about when you go to a store and go to buy a filter, why there are different prices. And what that stupid Merv rating, I shouldn't say stupid, and what that Merv rating is. It's not Uncle Merv. That's what it is. So check out the Merv rating. You're going to find that there's a direct relation between that and the filter. It's a better quality filter the higher the Merv rating. And you don't get a filter that lasts longer. You get a filter that filters less, which then allows it to last longer because it lets more through. It's up to you to decide what works the best for you, but at least now you have a little bit more of an understanding, and you've seen some real world example of a Merv 2 compared to a Merv 8 in the same time frame. So hopefully that gives you enough to decide what you need to do next time you go to buy a filter and make the best decision. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps.